Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us for this explainer from the You Need Faith in Jesus team. Today, we're going to dive deep into Psalm 55. We'll walk through its incredibly raw journey all the way from the crushing depths of anxiety and betrayal to a place of true, unshakable peace in God. So, let's get started.
Have you ever really felt that? That feeling that just sits on your chest, the sting of being wounded by someone you thought you could trust? It's a heavy, heavy feeling. Well, this ancient psalm speaks directly to that very modern pain, and believe me, it offers a real path forward.
So, right from the get-go, in verse 1, King David just lays it all out there. This isn't some polished, polite prayer. It's raw. He's practically begging God, please don't hide from me, don't ignore me. And that right there is our first big takeaway. God invites our complete honesty. He can absolutely handle our rawest, messiest emotions. So David's journey starts with this overwhelming cry, and he doesn't hold back. He takes us right into the heart of what severe anxiety actually feels like, both in your soul and in your body. You know, what David describes here in verses 4 and 5, it sounds almost exactly like a modern-day panic attack. It all starts on the inside, with a heart that is just, as he says, sore, pained. And that deep internal anguish, well, it escalates and fast. He calls it the terrors of death. That feeling where the anxiety is so extreme, you literally feel like your life is on the line. And then, you know how that inner chaos starts to show on the outside? That's what happens next. He says, fearfulness and trembling are come upon me. You can almost feel it. And finally, boom, the horror just takes over. It's not just a feeling anymore. It has, in his words, overwhelmed me. A total, all-consuming dread that's in complete control. So in the middle of all this horror, what's his first instinct? It's escape. Get me out of here. He's wishing for wings just to fly away from it all and finally find some rest. And let's be honest, we've all been there, right? But as we're about to see, this psalm points to a solution that is so much more powerful than just running away. So you have to wonder what on earth could cause this kind of pain. Well, in this next section, David tells us. And it's not just some random storm. It's a deeply personal, devastating wound. This is just brutal. David lays out this incredible contrast in verses 12 and 13. He basically says, look, if this was my enemy talking trash, I could have handled it. I could have braced myself. But it wasn't. The betrayal came from someone he considered an equal, a guide, a trusted friend. And that just drives home a painful truth. The closer the relationship, the deeper the wound. And just listen to how deep this friendship was. Verse 14 tells us they shared sweet counsel, and they even worshiped God together. This wasn't some surface-level acquaintance. This was an intimate, spiritual bond that got completely shattered, and that's what made the betrayal just so gut-wrenching. So here he is, overwhelmed by anxiety, shattered by betrayal. David is at a total crossroads, and right here, in the middle of all that pain, he makes a conscious, deliberate choice. And folks, this is the turning point of the entire psalm. He makes a declaration. He just draws a line in the sand. In total contrast to his enemies and even his own despair, David says, "As for me, I will call upon God." It's this powerful act of the will, choosing to shift his focus from his pain to his protector. And check this out. This isn't just a one-and-done fleeting prayer. Verse 17 shows us he's all in. He commits to a disciplined, persistent pattern, evening, morning, and at noon. He's creating a rhythm of turning to God, a constant conversation that becomes his anchor in the middle of the storm. So what happens when David makes this desperate choice to pray and to trust? Well, the entire dynamic shifts. We move from the problem to the divine solution. This is such a powerful concept from verse 18. Get this. David finds peace while the battle is still raging. His faith is so rock solid that he starts talking about his deliverance in the past tense, as if God has already done it. That's a whole other level of trust, finding peace by believing in God's victory before you can even see it. All right, so that's David's journey, but what about us? How do we take this ancient blueprint and actually apply it to the battles we're facing today? Well, the final section of the psalm gives us some really clear, actionable steps. And here it is. This is probably the verse you've been waiting for, verse 22. This is the absolute heart of it all. It's both a command and a promise. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. It's not just a nice idea. It's a divine invitation to literally hand over your heaviest weights to him. But you might be thinking, okay, but how? How do I actually do that? Well, David's own journey shows us the way. First, you cry out honestly. Just voice your raw emotions. He can take it. Second, pray persistently. Make it a habit, not just a one-time SOS call. And third, you have to trust actively. That means making a conscious decision to hand it over, believing he will keep his promise to sustain you.
And here's the real game changer. By the end of this whole ordeal, you notice something incredible has shifted. David's focus is no longer on the betrayal or the anxiety or even what's going to happen to his enemies. His entire world has recentered on one thing: his own relationship with God. So the psalm that began in absolute chaos and turmoil ends with this simple, profound, powerful declaration from verse 23. After everything he's been through, his final conclusion is this: "But I will trust in thee." That's it. That's the victory. And so this ancient psalm leaves us with a very modern question. Following David's example, what's the burden, that anxiety, that worry, that betrayal, that you need to consciously and deliberately cast upon the Lord today? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer from the You Need Faith in Jesus team.